This rampage will find you 2 weeks before they confess. What if this message has found you at exactly the moment you needed to hear it? What if the distance, the silence, the uncertainty, and all the questions you have been carrying are not the end of your story? Take a deep breath and let yourself become still, because this is not a moment to chase, force, beg, or search for proof. This is a moment to remember who you are. For too long, you may have been watching the outside world, checking for messages, analyzing every word, wondering what they're feeling, and asking yourself when they will finally say what your heart has been waiting to hear. But tonight, you are going to stop waiting for the outer world to give you permission to feel secure. You are going to return to the one place where your power has always existed, within you. Imagine just for a moment that the confession you desire is no longer something distant that you must chase. Imagine hearing the truth expressed clearly. Imagine the uncertainty dissolving. Imagine no longer asking, do they care? Because you have already released the identity of the person who constantly needs to ask. Feel what it would be like to sit peacefully with yourself, knowing that your value does not rise and fall according to a message, a phone call, a social media post, or a period of silence. This is where the transformation begins. Not when another person finally changes, but when you stop allowing temporary circumstances to control the story you tell yourself. Maybe you have been counting the days. Maybe you have been hoping that today will be different. Maybe part of you has been saying, what if they never confess? What if I am waiting for something that will never happen? But listen carefully. Fear does not get to write the ending simply because it speaks loudly. Doubt is not a prophecy. Silence is not always rejection. Delay is not always denial. And one difficult moment does not have the authority to define your entire connection. You do not have to keep repeating the same painful story in your mind. You can choose a different inner conversation starting now. For the next few moments, let go of the need to control every detail. Let go of the desperate need to know exactly how, exactly when, and exactly what they will say. You do not need to chase a confession in your imagination every second of the day. Instead, become the version of yourself who feels deeply secure, loved, respected, and worthy of honest communication. Let yourself feel the relief of no longer being emotionally dependent on the next piece of evidence. Let your mind become quiet enough to imagine something better. And if this rampage has reached you 2 weeks before an important conversation, an unexpected message, or a heartfelt confession, let it be a reminder to remain calm. Do not sabotage your peace by constantly checking whether it is happening yet. Do not abandon yourself because the outer world has not moved on your preferred schedule. These next moments are about you, your self-concept, your inner conversations, your expectations, your ability to remain steady even when you cannot yet see the entire path ahead. So close your eyes if you can. Take a slow breath, release the old story. You are no longer the person desperately waiting to be chosen. You are no longer the person who interprets every silence as rejection. You are becoming someone who knows their worth without demanding constant proof. And from this moment forward, let every thought become a reminder of the love, honesty, clarity, and emotional security you deserve. Do not chase the confession. Do not force the moment. Do not lose yourself in fear. Become still. Become certain. Become the version of you who no longer asks, will they ever tell me how they feel? Instead, allow yourself to rest in a new assumption. I am worthy of honest love. I am worthy of being chosen openly. I am worthy of hearing the truth. I do not have to chase what is meant to be expressed. And perhaps sooner than you think, the words you have been waiting to hear may no longer feel like a distant dream. This is your moment to stop watching, stop worrying, stop chasing, and start becoming. Let the rampage begin. There comes a moment when you realize that constantly searching for evidence is exhausting you more than the situation itself. You check your phone, analyze their behavior, replay old conversations, wonder why they viewed something but did not respond, and search for hidden meaning in every small detail. Your mind becomes a detective, constantly looking for proof that they care, proof that they are thinking about you, proof that something is changing. But the more you search, the more you often reinforce the feeling that you do not yet have what you desire. You keep asking the outer world to reassure you, while forgetting that your inner world is where your assumptions, expectations, and emotional patterns are being created. This is the moment when everything can begin to shift, not necessarily because another person suddenly changes overnight, but because you finally stop handing your piece over to every circumstance that appears in front of you. You do not need to inspect every message for hidden meaning. You do not need to count the hours since they last contacted you. You do not need to wake up every morning and immediately ask, has anything happened yet? That question can keep you emotionally attached to waiting. And when you live in a state of waiting, your attention remains focused on the absence of what you want. Instead, allow yourself to ask a different question. Who would I be if I no longer needed constant proof? Imagine becoming emotionally free from the endless cycle of checking, worrying, and assuming the worst. Imagine looking at silence without immediately creating a painful story around it. Imagine realizing that you can remain calm even when you do not know every detail. This does not mean pretending that you have no feeling. It does not mean ignoring reality or denying your emotions. If you feel disappointed, acknowledge it. If you feel afraid, recognize that feeling without allowing it to become your permanent identity. But after you have felt the emotion, you can choose what story you will continue telling yourself. You can either repeat, nothing is happening, they do not care, I am being forgotten, or you can return to a more peaceful and self-respecting state. You can remind yourself, I do not know every thought, every reason, or every possibility. I refuse to create suffering by assuming the worst. The real shift happens when you stop making external evidence the condition for your inner peace. You stop saying, I will feel loved when they confess. You stop saying, I will feel secure when they finally text. You stop postponing your happiness until someone else performs the exact action you have been waiting for. Instead, you begin cultivating the feeling now. You become someone who feels worthy now. You become someone who respects themselves now. You become someone who understands that another person's silence does not automatically reduce your value. And this is where your energy changes, not through desperation, but through release. You are no longer chasing every sign because you are becoming less afraid of not knowing. You are no longer trying to force every outcome because you are learning to trust yourself. You stop obsessively asking when the confession will happen and begin focusing on how you want to feel while life unfolds. So if this rampage has found you during a period of uncertainty, let this be your reminder. Put the phone down for a moment. Stop searching for the next piece of evidence. Stop interrogating every circumstance. Return to yourself. Breathe. Remember your worth. Allow the future to unfold without sacrificing your present peace. You do not have to chase proof that you matter. You do not have to beg for reassurance. You do not have to lose yourself while waiting for someone to speak. Let your new story begin here. I am calm. I am worthy. I am secure. I release the need to constantly search for evidence. I choose peace over panic, trust over obsession, and self-respect over fear. And sometimes, the moment you stop desperately watching for movement is the moment you finally have the emotional space to notice that life is still moving forward. The greatest change begins when you stop seeing yourself as the person who is waiting to be chosen and start identifying with the version of yourself who already knows they are worthy of love. For so long, you may have placed your attention entirely on another person. What are they thinking? Why have they not said anything? When will they finally confess? Do they feel the same way? But when every thought revolves around what another person is or is not doing, you can slowly forget the most important question. Who are you being while you wait? Are you becoming the version of yourself who feels secure, loved, confident, and valuable? Or are you repeatedly identifying with rejection, uncertainty, abandonment, and fear? This is where the real transformation begins. Before you look for a confession, begin listening to the story you are constantly telling yourself about who you are. If deep down you believe that you are difficult to love, easy to forget, or always the person who gets left behind, those beliefs can influence the way you interpret everything around you. A delayed reply can suddenly feel like rejection. A quiet day can become proof that something is wrong. A small change in behavior can send your mind into panic. But when you begin to see yourself as someone who is worthy, lovable, and emotionally secure, you no longer need every moment to prove that you matter. You stop placing your entire identity in someone else's hands. You begin to understand that being loved does not have to feel like a constant battle. So today, stop asking yourself, how can I make them choose me? Ask yourself something far more powerful. What would change inside me if I truly believed I was already worthy of being chosen? Perhaps you would stop over-explaining yourself. Perhaps you would stop chasing conversations. Perhaps you would stop accepting behavior that repeatedly makes you feel small. Perhaps you would no longer wake up every day afraid that love could disappear at any moment. You would begin moving through life with a different emotional posture. Not because you are pretending to be perfect, but because you are no longer defining yourself through fear. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the version of you who feels deeply loved. How do they think? How do they speak to themselves? Do they spend every hour worrying about whether they are enough? Or do they carry a quiet understanding that their worth existed before anyone recognized it? Begin becoming that person now. Feel what it is like to be wanted without needing to force attention. Feel what it is like to be respected without constantly demanding reassurance. Feel what it is like to know that you deserve honesty, affection, commitment, and communication. This is not about becoming arrogant or believing that you can control another person's choices. Every person has their own autonomy, feelings, and decisions. But you always have influence over the relationship you build with yourself. You can choose whether fear or self-respect will guide your next thought. You can choose whether you will continue repeating an old identity or begin practicing a healthier, stronger one. And perhaps this is the most powerful part of this entire rampage. The confession is no longer the only thing capable of making you feel complete. You stop saying, once they confess, then I will finally feel loved. Instead, you begin creating that feeling within yourself. You learn to enjoy your life while remaining open to love. You become emotionally grounded while still allowing yourself to hope. So from this moment forward, release the identity of the person who is desperately waiting. Release the version of you who believes that silence automatically means rejection. Release the habit of measuring your worth through another person's actions. Become the version of you who knows, I am lovable. I am worthy of honesty. I am worthy of healthy communication. I do not have to chase someone to prove that I deserve love. Walk with that feeling. Think from that feeling. Return to that feeling whenever fear appears. Let this be the identity you practice over the coming days. You are not here to beg to be chosen. You are here to remember that you were always worthy of love. And when you truly begin living from that understanding, you may discover that the greatest confession you have been waiting for was never only about hearing someone else's feelings. It was also about finally admitting to yourself how valuable, lovable, and worthy you have always been. There is a powerful moment in every journey of love when you must decide what silence means to you. For many people, silence immediately becomes a reason to panic. A message is not answered quickly enough, a conversation becomes shorter, a phone call does not happen, or a person seems distant for a moment. And suddenly the mind begins creating an entire story. They have lost interest, they are forgetting me, they do not care, something has gone wrong. Before you know it, one small circumstance has become a painful future that exists only in your imagination. But this is where you must take your power back. Silence does not automatically mean rejection. Distance does not automatically mean the end. And a moment without communication does not have the authority to determine your worth or predict everything that will happen next. Your mind has been trained by past experiences, fears, disappointments, and expectations to search for danger. It wants answers immediately because uncertainty can feel uncomfortable. But not knowing something is not the same as knowing something bad. You may not know why someone has become quiet. You may not understand what they are feeling or what they are going through. Instead of filling every empty space with fear, allow yourself to leave room for possibilities. The truth is that you cannot read another person's mind simply by watching their behavior. When you assume the worst without clear evidence, you create emotional pain before anything has actually happened. This rampage is about breaking that pattern. The next time silence appears, do not immediately run toward your phone, social media, old conversations, or imaginary scenarios. Pause, take a breath, ask yourself, am I responding to what I actually know, or am I reacting to a story created by fear? That single question can change everything. It creates space between the circumstance and your emotional reaction. You begin to understand that you do not have to believe every fearful thought that enters your mind. Let silence become neutral again. Stop giving it the power to ruin your entire day. Stop allowing a delayed response to decide whether you feel beautiful, valuable, lovable, or secure. Your worth does not disappear when your phone is quiet. Your future does not collapse because you do not have an answer today. The person you care about may have their own emotions, responsibilities, struggles, thoughts, and reasons for needing space, and you do not need to invent a painful explanation for every moment you do not understand. This does not mean accepting unhealthy behavior or ignoring genuine problems. Healthy relationships require communication, honesty, boundaries, and mutual respect. But there is a difference between recognizing a real pattern that needs attention and allowing temporary uncertainty to consume your mind. Emotional strength means learning when to address something and when to stop feeding fear with endless overthinking. So, over the coming days, make a new decision. When silence appears, return to yourself. Do something that reconnects you with your own life. Read, work, create, exercise, pray, rest, laugh. Spend time with people who care about you, or simply sit quietly and breathe. Remind yourself that your entire world is not contained inside one person's response. You are still here. Your life is still moving. Your dreams still matter. Your peace is still available to you. And if a confession, conversation, or unexpected message eventually arrives, let it meet you as someone who has not abandoned themselves while waiting. Let it find you calm. Let it find you grounded. Let it find you no longer controlled by every temporary circumstance. Say it to yourself now. I release the need to interpret silence as rejection. I do not know every detail, and I do not need to create fear where there may be no reason for it. I am secure within myself. I am worthy of honest communication. I can remain peaceful even when I do not have every answer. The silence loses its power the moment you stop allowing it to tell you who you are. And when you become emotionally steady, you stop chasing reassurance and start living from a place of self-respect, peace, and quiet confidence. You do not need to fear the pause. You do not need to fill every silence with panic. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is remain calm and allow the next chapter to reveal itself. One of the most powerful things you can do when you are waiting for clarity, communication, or a confession is to become aware of the conversations you are already having in your own mind. Every day you may be speaking internally about this person without even realizing it. You may imagine them rejecting you. You may replay old arguments. You may hear them saying things you fear they think. You may mentally prepare yourself for disappointment before anything has even happened. And the more often you repeat those inner conversations, the more natural they begin to feel. Your mind becomes familiar with fear, uncertainty, and disappointment. But what if, instead of repeatedly rehearsing the conversation you do not want, you began consciously imagining the emotional experience you do want? What if you stopped preparing for rejection and started allowing yourself to feel the possibility of honesty, warmth, and mutual understanding? This does not mean forcing another person to say something against their will. Every individual has their own feelings, choices, and autonomy. But you have the power to guide your own thoughts, expectations, and emotional state. You can choose whether your inner world will constantly rehearse fear or whether it will become a place where you practice peace. Imagine for a moment that the conversation you have been hoping for takes place naturally. Imagine seeing their name appear on your phone and feeling calm instead of panic. Imagine hearing sincere words that bring clarity rather than confusion. Imagine no longer having to guess where you stand, because the communication between you feels honest and open. Do not focus too heavily on every exact word. Instead, focus on the feeling behind the experience. How would you feel if the uncertainty finally disappeared? Would you feel relieved, peaceful, loved, understood? Allow yourself to experience a small part of that feeling now. Your mind does not need to remain trapped in the emotional state of waiting. You can practice the emotional security you desire before the outer world gives you any new evidence. This is not about pretending that you know exactly what will happen. It is about refusing to let fear become the only future your imagination is willing to consider. Perhaps for the next 2 weeks you can make this a daily practice. When your mind begins asking, "Why have they not confessed yet?" gently redirect yourself. Instead of imagining another painful scenario, take a quiet moment and picture a loving, respectful conversation. Hear the tone of warmth. Feel yourself relaxed. See yourself listening without fear and speaking without desperation. Let yourself imagine being treated with honesty and care. Then release the scene. You do not have to repeat it obsessively all day. You do not have to force yourself to believe something every second. Simply return to the feeling whenever fear tries to pull you back into the old story. The most important transformation may not be the conversation itself. It may be the person you become while preparing emotionally for a healthier kind of love. You begin expecting honesty because you recognize that you deserve honesty. You begin imagining respect because you understand that confusion and anxiety do not have to be your permanent experience. You begin choosing peaceful thoughts because you finally understand that constantly rehearsing disaster does not protect you from disappointment. It only makes you experience the pain before you know whether it is even real. So let your inner conversation become a reflection of what you truly value. Instead of mentally asking, "Why do they not love me?" begin asking, "What would it feel like to experience love that is clear, honest, and freely expressed?" Instead of hearing silence in your imagination, allow yourself to hear words of sincerity. Instead of replaying rejection, practice the feeling of being respected and understood. Say this to yourself: "I choose thoughts that support my peace. I release imaginary conversations rooted in fear. I am open to honest, healthy, and loving communication. I do not have to chase clarity. I can remain calm while allowing life and relationships to unfold naturally." And as you move through the coming days, remember that you do not need to live emotionally inside the conversation you fear. You can begin creating a different inner experience now. Let your imagination become a place of peace rather than panic. Let yourself expect communication that honors your dignity. Let yourself believe that you are worthy of hearing the truth. The conversation you desire begins with a conversation you are willing to have within yourself. And when you stop rehearsing fear, you create space for a completely different experience to unfold. There may be moments when the very thing you desire seems closest, just when you are most tempted to panic. You may have been working on your self-concept, calming your mind, imagining the kind of conversation you want to experience, and releasing the need to constantly search for evidence. Then suddenly, a quiet day appears. Maybe they do not message you when you expect it. Maybe something happens that triggers an old fear. Maybe your mind starts whispering, "Nothing is changing." You need to do something. You need to reach out. You need to force this conversation before it is too late. But this is the moment to pause. The 2 weeks before any hoped for breakthrough are not a countdown that you need to obsessively monitor. They are an opportunity to practice the emotional strength you have been building. Your goal is not to sit helplessly and wait for someone to confess. Your goal is to stop abandoning your peace while life is still unfolding. There is a difference between taking a healthy, authentic action and chasing from fear. Healthy action comes from clarity, self-respect, and genuine desire. Chasing comes from panic, and the belief that if you do not control everything immediately, you will lose what you want. Learn to recognize the difference. Before sending a message, checking their profile, demanding reassurance, or creating another imaginary scenario, stop and ask yourself, Am I acting from peace or am I acting because I am afraid? That question can protect you from repeating old patterns. You do not have to suppress your feelings, but you also do not have to allow every temporary emotion to control your behavior. For the next days, let calm become your discipline. Wake up and choose not to make their actions the first thing that determines your mood. Do not begin every morning by checking whether they have contacted you. Give yourself a life that is bigger than waiting. Take care of your responsibilities. Do something creative. Spend time with people who make you feel supported. Rest. Learn something new. Move your body. Enjoy a quiet moment without turning it into another opportunity to wonder what they are doing. The more you return to your own life, the more you remember that love should be an addition to your identity, not the entire foundation of it. And if the confession you hope for comes, let it find you grounded. Let it meet a version of you who did not spend every day in emotional chaos. Let it meet someone who knows how to receive honesty without losing themselves in fear. But also remember that another person's confession cannot be guaranteed by a countdown, a technique, or a rampage. People have their own autonomy, emotions, and timing. The true power of this practice is not controlling another person. It is transforming the way you experience uncertainty, love, and yourself, relays the pressure of needing to know the exact day and hour. You do not need to count. 14 days left, 13 days left, 12 days left. That can turn hope into obsession. Instead, let each day become a chance to practice the identity you have chosen. Today you are secure. Today you are worthy. Today you are open to honest communication. Today you refuse to chase fear. When doubt appears, do not fight it for hours. Notice it and redirect yourself. When impatience appears, breathe and return to the present moment. When the urge to chase becomes strong, remember that you do not need to prove your value through constant pursuit. The right kind of connection should leave room for mutuality, honesty, and respect. Say this with conviction. I release the need to force what I desire. I trust myself to remain calm. I am worthy of clear and honest love. I do not chase from fear. I do not abandon myself while waiting for answers. I allow people to make their own choices while I choose peace, dignity, and self-respect. Perhaps the greatest breakthrough will not only be the words you hope to hear. Perhaps it will be the moment